Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome. This is the April 20th, 2023 meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Improvement Program. I'm Jean Rash, Vice Chair, moderating this evening. Fatima, would you do call to order?
All right, roll call. Aguajito Oak. Alta Mesa. Casanova Oak Knoll.
Here.
Deer Flats.
Here.
Del Monte Beach.
Here.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande.
Here.
Downtown.
Here.
Fisherman's Flat.
Here.
Glenwood.
Here.
Monterey Vista.
Here.
New Monterey. Oak
Here.
Grove. Oh, sorry. Is New Monterey here? Oak Grove.
Here.
Old Town.
Here.
Skyline.
Here.
Via Del Monte.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our staff coordinator, Tom Hardy, will read the information for the hybrid meetings.
Thank you. Welcome to the April 20th, 2023 meeting of the Monterey Neighborhood and Community Improvement Program. Our in-person rules this evening: the City of Monterey is committed to the safe attendance of its public meetings. I know, we're trying to figure that out. The City of Monterey is committed to the safe attendance of its public meetings. Masks are encouraged for all who attend in person, regardless of vaccination status. We ask that attendees in the council chamber keep their phones and devices muted to prevent the audio interference and feedback with the hybrid meeting we're hearing right now. The City of Monterey seeks to continue to offer virtual methods for public participation in the meetings. If you aren't joining us in person here in the council chamber, there are two ways to virtually participate in this meeting. You may join the meeting directly on Zoom Gov using the Zoom app on your computer or mobile device. And you can also call in to the Zoom meeting. To join the meeting on Zoom on your computer, smartphone, or telephone, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearchmonterey.org. To call into the Zoom meeting, dial toll-free 833-568-8864, then enter the meeting ID, which is 161-843-6636, and the pound symbol. And if prompted to enter a participant ID, press the pound symbol. Detailed instructions on using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To make a public comment using the Zoom app, you can virtually raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you are dialed in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9 and then unmute yourself when called upon by dialing *6. You must do both. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. Public speakers will be called on in the order their hands are raised. Please stay within the time limit established for tonight's meeting, which we will show using a countdown timer on the screen. If you are connected live on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. Today's meeting is also streamed live on the city's YouTube account, which is accessible at youtube.com/City of Monterey. An approximate 10-second delay, and on Comcast channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. As always, we look forward to receiving your public comments.
Thank you. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to offer the first review of nominated projects with the second half of the neighborhoods. So we'll be starting with New Monterey and going through what you might used to hearing called citywide but is now multi-neighborhood. Much better. Thank you. So we'll begin with public comments. At this time, the public may speak for a maximum of 1 to 3 minutes on any subject which is within the jurisdiction of the Monterey Neighborhood and Community Improvement Program Committee and which is not on the agenda. Is there any public comment in the audience?
We have 3 on Zoom. I'll allow the number ending in 500. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Wendy Brickman. Hello, everyone. I'm calling on behalf of the Board of Directors of the North Fremont Business District to indicate my and their strong support of the proposed storm drain solution for flooding at North Fremont, at Ramona in the travel lanes, high traffic street, and when it rains, even a little bit in front of Grandma's Kitchen, both lanes of Ramona have dangerous standing water across the right travel lane that's several inches deep, and people are hydroplaning and throwing rooster tails of between 8 to 10 feet. So this intersection has been a problem for years, and we want a permanent safe solution. Maybe Measure S can apply here, but if it doesn't, we'd like this funded through an NCIP project that creates a safe drainage system at that site and works properly, creating a safe thoroughfare for both locals and visitors who come to the hotels and are not expecting, any kind of flood situation there. So we urge everyone to support this important NCIP project, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Teresa Pipe. Teresa, go ahead.
Hi. Okay, good. So I spoke last week about the proposed bike path, and I speak again about it, but I first want to just say thank you for being who all of you are, involved in caring people with our community. A couple of days ago, you guys probably noticed or heard that a car going down Casa Verde hit the pole getting onto the Highway 1 ramp because it was going so fast. As a bike rider, I use Casa Verde, and it's always a scary experience. We do have, the bike path in the middle of Fremont. And I notice also that people don't really use it. And I'm hoping once it connects to Delray Oaks, that will change, but it also needs to connect to downtown. Because otherwise it just goes nowhere. And we do know from research that bike paths do reduce the risk of collisions. They calm traffic. The more bikes we have, the less congestion. We know it's healthier for people. We know it's healthier for the environment. It's better for tourism too. And in cities that have instituted bike paths, they have actually had their businesses go up, business time go up, like on Valencia in San Francisco, 66% of businesses improved once they had a bike path there, because people on a bike path slow down and they stop and they might drop into something. And I think it's also good for our younger generation. I think about the children who are growing up here and the millennials. Many of them use bikes. And so I just want to once again say, I hope you will truly consider this. I think it's something so important for all of us. Thank you for your time and thank you for your involvement.
Thank you. And as you probably know, the public commenters, we don't respond to the comments during public comment time. So anyone else online?
Yes, we have one more, Michael Lang. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to real quickly ask before I comment. I wanted to speak on project RR02, which I believe is on the agenda tonight. I'm currently traveling.
So I'd like to hold
guess-
comment when the project is introduced.
So there's, I see. Okay. Yeah, I was traveling, so I was kind of hoping maybe I could comment now, but I guess I need to wait. Is that true?
It's okay with me. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so again, my name is Michael Lang. I'm the current president of Monterey Bay Pickleball Club. Again, sorry I couldn't be there. I'm traveling. I'm actually playing in a pickleball tournament in Las Vegas this week. I submitted the project RR02 on behalf of the club. It calls for a construction of 8 pickleball courts at Ryan Ranch. I'm not intending to do any sort of advocacy for the project today, but I did want to mention a few things about the project itself. The first thing is that we would like to approach this as a public-private partnership. Myself and some others have reached out to Jean and Shannon, and they both identified the recent disc golf project at Ryan Ranch as a model for future development. So with that in mind, I've submitted a letter of intent to the city of Monterey to enter into a public-private partnership to build pickleball courts. As a partner in this effort, we plan to start a capital fundraising campaign to help fund a portion of the construction costs. We will have fundraising events. We'll seek out individual and corporate donations, hopefully, and use our 501c3 nonprofit status to apply for grants. What else? In talking to Shannon, one of the issues that I had was this idea of having a project that we can actually raise donations for. So she suggested that we break the project into 2 phases. So have a design phase and then a construction phase. So our club currently has about $7,500 in our coffers, which we could contribute to a design portion. So I'm going to try and reach out to Tom Hardy and see if I can modify the project to reflect the idea of having 2 phases, a design phase and then a construction phase. And I know that the design phase cost will be much higher than $7,500, but I hope that that will be considered a sufficient good faith contribution such that you would approve our project, enable us to do more serious fundraising once we actually have plans in place. There are also some features such as lighting and restrooms which may be infeasible, and it's fine with us if those get removed from the project. And lastly, I wanted to request, if possible, some guidance on how much you would like to see from us in terms of fundraising. It's always good to have a goal when you start out doing a capital campaign. And if you can provide us some sort of indication what you would like to see from us in this partnership, that would be great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else online?
No hands online.
Okay, we do have speakers in the chambers.
Sure. Hi, good to see all you and old friends and new faces too. My name is Tom Reeves. I live in New Monterey. And first I'd like to thank Shinieri, who I know is not here. At least I don't think she's online. She's been a great representative for our neighborhood. But on that, I now know that the city council basically appoints a representative for a neighborhood. And my understanding, I wasn't very active in our neighborhood association at the time, but our previous experience with a previous representative wasn't so good. And that leads me to my first comment, which is that I think the representatives should be mandated to join their neighborhood associations. There should be some level of participation on the part of the representatives to this committee with their neighborhood, and that this person shouldn't just be dropped from space onto a neighborhood and said, this is your representative, live with it, kind of a thing, which is how I kind of sensed it worked for the previous representative. But again, Shinieri's been fantastic. I really enjoy working with her. My other comment has to do with citywide projects. I know that term was used almost as a derogatory term back in my day of working with all of you. And for a while there, from the city staff perspective, we actually started to say, look, especially if staff is going to nominate a project, you, city staff, go to that neighborhood representative, suggest that project to that neighborhood representative and get that neighborhood to either say yay or nay, and then leave it alone. If they want to support it, they think it's a good idea, then great, go for it. But if the neighborhood association says thanks, but no thanks, then it dies. And I think that should become a policy. I'm not sure how much say you have in the policies and procedures manual, but I think that would be a good thing to have. And then thirdly, those citywide type projects, we have to go back to the essence of what NIP is about, and that is to serve the neighborhoods and serve the residents. So there needs to be a direct connection with that. Filling potholes on Pacific Street or some project like that has a very tenuous relationship to a particular neighborhood. Sports Center to me was always a little bit of a stretch, but you could argue that it serves the residents, but it also serves a much broader area, Seaside, Marina. I mean, people come to the Sports Center from all around. So I know a lot of you are very familiar with the NIP process and you've been here for a long time and you know these issues, but especially for the new people, this program, I still know it as the NIP, not the NCIP, is to serve the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else in chambers? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to informational reports and staff comments.
The only thing we had this evening is just to note again that the conflict maps are being prepared at this point. So we'll be ahead of that this year and won't be at the last minute. But that was the only comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
And there is no NCIP spokesperson reports because we met just 7 days ago. So there's no new news. So we can move on to our presentation for the committee first review of proposed projects, New Monterey through the multi-neighborhood projects. Tom?
Thank you. And I think I've got to share my screen here. I learned this the other night. I was? Okay. Thank you. Back we go. Everyone could see that? There we go. So thanks for coming tonight. It's not.
Hey, Tom, you're not sharing online.
Thank you. Okay. Try it again. Better?
Got it.
Thank you. Let's go. Tonight is the first review that we're doing for the second half of the project. So these would be the neighborhoods for between New Monterey and Villa Del Monte with the multi-neighborhood projects at the end of tonight. This is just a summary of the projects. We have 103 in total. 61 are returned from the defunded project list and 53 were nominated this year. We pared that down a little bit at the project review meeting back in February. Reviewed the first half of neighborhoods last week on Thursday night, and this evening we're going to be going through the second half. And we'll get right into it. The first neighborhood is New Monterey. 14 projects were nominated. We'll start walking through them. The first one, New Monterey, project number 1 is the Lower Presidio Walkway, phase 2. It's for the intersection design there at Private Bolio and Lighthouse. Originally proposed in 2004. There was a comment from the traffic staff group, which just said that this project be scoped to include rolled mountable curbs to ensure fire access. Project number 2 is the in the Lower Presidio. It's the Sloat Monument Restoration Project, also originally nominated in 2011. This was a defunded project. Because this is on the property of the Presidio, we would need an agreement prior to commence with the Army, prior to commencing work on the restoration of the monument. Project number 5 is the Cannery Row Workers Housing Restoration. Originally proposed in 2015, is to better weatherize or weatherproof the structures there on Bruce Arris Way. Project number 6 is the Hilltop Park Center. It's the facility use study. It's an analysis of the building and what it could be used for. This project was originally proposed and approved in 2016. It was also one of the defunded ones that automatically came back. Project number 8 is at the Shoreline Park. This is between Lighthouse Curve and the rec trail. There's a fish hopper, which is that wooden structure there, to restore it and add signage to it. Originally approved in 2016. Project number 10 is at Cannery Row. It's for a public restroom design. It was approved in 2018 originally. And again, we have an active NCIP project right now to look at the entire city to do a public restroom study and identify locations where restrooms are needed, where more could be done, and try and figure the funding and costs for those. Project number 11 is also at Bruce Arris Way. It's to upgrade the lighting in that. That's actually a public right of way that goes between Cannery Row and the rec trail there. Project number 12 is Taylor Street, the 600 block. It's to add a stabilized decomposed granite walkway. It was originally approved in 2018, again, defunded in 2020. Project number 13 is the Oak Street 500 block for street widening design and a portion of construction. Originally approved in 2019. This is adjacent to Oak Newton Park up in New Monterey. Project number 16 is at Cannery Row, on Cannery Row. It's the Aeneas Bridge restoration. You may recall we had a project to look at and do an analysis of the structural and historic condition of the facility there, the walkway going over Cannery Row. That was completed this year. This project would be to fund the restoration efforts in accordance with what the report is recommending. Project number 19 is new this year. This is the Hilltop Park Center. Facility improvements and facelift. This is for interior improvements to the building to keep it functional longer. This project was reviewed by the Parks and Rec Commission on April 12th, and they voted on their top 12 projects. This was their third highest priority when they're asking for the projects that they have. Project number 20 is at Schulte Park. It's the redesign of the outside of the area. I guess that's the northwest corner of the property, to redesign the area to make it more functional for events and just to make it more usable. This was the Parks and Rec Commission's 9th highest priority project. Project number 24, David Avenue Open Space Acquisition. This is a property that's owned by the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. It's available. It's right opposite. It's right at the city limit there with PG at the top of David, across from Hilltop Center. Project number 25 is for right-of-way improvements at 1230 Irving Avenue. The property owner would like to do something along adjacent to the street there.
Thank you. So we'll first go to public comments online for each neighborhood. So we're at the end of New Monterey. So we'll take public comments online about New Monterey, and then we'll go to chamber comments, and then we'll go to the committee discussion and comments. So is there anybody online?
No hands raised online.
Thank you. Anyone in the chambers? Yes.
Hi, I'm Donna Gibson. I submitted NM 13 with my husband on behalf of our block. Majority of the people who live on that street have voted for this widening, primarily a safety issue. I saw 2 months ago, my neighbor broke her hip and the emergency vehicle had less than a foot to move between parked vehicles on both sides of the street. It's a really narrow street. It's the only park, I think, that has such a narrow street that is so busy. We have a party there every weekend. I mean, usually several. There's no sidewalks on one side of the street. There's only a partial sidewalk on the other side of the street. It's basically unusable as a two-way street. So I guess I would hope that you will consider it as a safety and health issue to widen this particular street.
Thanks, Donna. Anyone else in chambers?
Tom Reeves, once again from New Monterey. Yes, as the previous speaker said, Taylor Street at our meeting that we had got a lot of interest. That was pretty highly rated. Also, the Oak 500 widening was another project that was highly supported. And the Hilltop Park facility improvements. I'm not speaking on I'm just speaking as an individual. Let me make that clear too. I have a question about the Presidio Walkway project. Is this to build a crosswalk where it currently is at the end of, I forget the name of the street that passes through the lower Presidio, or is this to go from the end of Hawthorne, which was an idea years ago, which I thought was a really good idea, but it never went anywhere.
Yeah, my understanding is that this one is just to redo the intersection at Private Bolio and Lighthouse.
And how's that going to benefit pedestrians?
Well, there would be an accessible crossing.
So up there where
Across
we see the
Bolio.
crosswalk, that's where it would remain?
No, we'll have to analyze it. And Marissa Garcia, who's one of our traffic folks from the engineering office.
Yes, so we would be relocating the crosswalk closer to the intersection so that people who are turning right from Lighthouse onto Private Bolio would be able to see pedestrians. So that was the original intent of relocating it.
Good, great. And then lastly, the Sloat Monument. We had a project up there years ago, and I don't remember having to go to the Army to get permission because that's in our leasehold. But I could be wrong on that, but it's part of our 99-year leasehold.
We'll have to check.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone else in chambers? Well, I'll start with a couple questions and then we can all join in. On the widening of Oak Street 500 block that Ms. Gibson was talking about, can
13.
excuse me, yeah, NM 13. Can staff just talk me through how we would even do that? I mean, how do you widen a street?
Step one, we'd have to do a survey, find out where the right-of-way lines are, and then see what we can do within the right-of-way lines. It would be a lot of the people whose driveways are there. If it was widened, we would likely be shortening them, making them shorter. That's what I meant to say. And so that there'll be some, distance where we have to transition from what they have down to the new improvements. But that's where we would start. From this photo that we're looking at, it looks like the right-hand side has a lot more room. I would guess that big wall on the left is approximately at the right-of-way line, but we'd have to do a survey would be the first step and find where the boundary is and see how much room we have to work with and what we can do within that space.
Well, and I believe we've done several of these in that neighborhood already. And I think this is like the last block that's been waiting all this time.
Okay. Thank you. I see Richard has his hand up too online.
Yes, I have a question for Tom on procedure for this year. In the past, we have had many restrooms proposed throughout the city. Some of those we funded and some of those were defunded. But I see we have project 56, which is a design study. So if that is on the wall this year, do we vote for it? We don't even have the restroom study done. So I would hate to waste tens of thousands of dollars on a design study. And if it doesn't meet the criteria of the restroom study, then it's wasted money. How are we going to vote on this on voting night, Tom? Is this project taken off the wall? Is it on the wall? Do we vote it? And does it bend with the new study when that's completed? I'd like some clarification. Thank you.
That's a great question, Richard.
I think it's a valid project that's been proposed, and it's our choice to decide whether we fund both or we fund the survey only or wait for the survey.
The survey was funded last year, so that's like underway. We're beginning to work on that now. So hopefully, well, maybe not be by the time we have a vote on it, but certainly within the next year, we'll know more about that. But
we have other design projects on the wall this year, and some of them will prove valid, some of them invalid. I just hate to waste the money. I'm just saying we need to get our ducks in order here. And as I can see it, we shouldn't be considering designing anything till we have answers.
Oh, and Chinieri also has her hand
Quick
raised.
question. What I see here is that we have a defunded brought back study for the use of the Hilltop Park. And then we have a request for fixing the Hilltop Park up. Actually, you know what? It's not a question. I think we're free to choose whether we vote for both of those or neither of those, but we need to understand. I think when it was originally submitted, the idea was to do the study first, then to come back and ask for money on what the study recommended.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the list right now. Well, what is that? Project number 19. So the third highest priority from the Parks and Rec Commission was to do a facelift on the upper floor of Hilltop Center. So that's higher on their list, I believe. Jack. Than the study, like the use study.
Might not the facelift and the use study come back with something different? In other words, might the use study recommend something that would undo the facelift or change what's been spent? Yes. 19 versus 6. So, and I just think that's for us to consider. They're both valid. And so the question is, do you fund the facelift, or do you say you want to see the study first? It's the same point that Richard was making.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Well, and hopefully New Monterey is going to be speaking about how they want us to prioritize, right? So I hope we get direction from the Neighborhood Association of New Monterey.
Chinieri's here, and she has her hand raised too. But I will just again note that the facelift is the third highest priority. They prioritize the top 12 projects, Parks and Rec Commission, and their third highest ranked project was the facelift of that. The Hilltop Center use study did not rank within the top 12.
Chinieri?
Yeah, so that was actually something that I wanted to highlight, the differences between New Monterey 6 and 19. We did have a discussion in our neighborhood association about these two projects. Project 6 seems to be more focused on transitioning the Hilltop Center into an arts center specific to that. Whereas the project 19 was more making more of the facelift, so doing upgrades to the building, and it was felt that it was more important to the residents to support the facelift project. There really wasn't much of an interest in terms of changing the function of the Hilltop Park Center. So if there were to be a preference, I would say 19 would be a preference for the residents as voiced in the neighborhood association meeting.
Great, that's helpful.
And then let's see, for New Monterey 24, just a question. The project, the person who submitted the project was interested in reducing fire fuel. So it would be helpful to get comment from Parks and Rec about whether that would be something to consider about that specific space.
I did receive a comment from Parks staff last week. It was actually at the meeting, and they were not thrilled about this project. The space is very small. The trees that are there are not, I guess, the healthiest of specimens. So to remove them, I guess if we determined that this was a priority project and accepted it or went through the process of acquiring it from MPUSD, then we could talk about removing the trees on that as well.
And then lastly, New Monterey 25. I recently last week went and took a look, and it seemed that there was already work done there. It looked like they had already put down DG. So I tried to call and email the project submitter, and I wasn't able to get a hold of anyone, but it seemed like the project that they submitted has kind of already been addressed. So I wasn't really sure if that would still be something to consider.
And I guess the thing to do is if you can get a hold of them, if they want to withdraw it at this point, then they could do that, or we can leave it on and see how it does.
Okay. I can continue to try to get a hold of them.
Thank you.
And that's it for me. Thank you.
And then Richard, oh,
April,
April.
this is sort of in line with what we're talking about, but at what point will we get estimates on costs of these? Because that's really going to determine what our neighborhoods will and will not support. And just curious.
Yes. So similar to how we did it last year, we're going to come up with generalized costs prior to voting night. And actually we'll have something for you. What we've discussed at this point is like kind of like the Yelp app or something where you're looking at a restaurant. It's got different dollar signs. And we'll put some limits on projects. Maybe $1 sign will be like anything less than $25,000, and 2 will be from 25 to 75,000, and then maybe 75 to 250,000, and then like that. So it'd be like $1, $2, or $3 signs. We're still facing staff shortages right now, and just don't have the manpower to put all the work in that needs to be done to come up with estimates. And last year also just realized that, you know, we only need them for the top ranking projects, and we don't know which ones those are. So it doesn't make sense to do. This year we only have 100. Last year was twice as many. So it just we'll have some generalized, just like it's going to be expensive, or this will not be an expensive thing, just by doing like 1, 2, 3, or 4 like dollar sign type of things. That's our thought. And Richard has his hand raised also.
Yes, I have a question about the purview of NCIP and the proposals we're looking at tonight. NCIP cannot be a hammer that people use to overturn the city council, the planning commission, Parks and Rec. So the projects, when they're proposed, have to be in the purview of NCIP. And if somebody wants to change the use of a city building, it has to be part of the Parks and Rec master plan, which is approved by the city council. So how are we voting for a project to change a city use when they haven't gone through Parks and Recreation, planning, the city council? I believe that we're losing our place and what we're supposed to be doing here. The projects to qualify have to meet those criteria to meet a valid project. If somebody wants to change the rec trail into a motorcycle track, is that a valid NCIP project, or does that have to fit the Parks and Rec master plan? So I'm doubting the qualification of validity for some of these projects when the proposer didn't follow the legal process to make it a legal project. So I would like Tom to ask the city manager or city council or whoever it is on the purview of NCIP on projects that are contrary to current city master plans and city council decisions. Thank you.
And I can respond to that if this is the appropriate time.
Sure.
All of the projects, the top 12 that Parks and Rec reviewed, they were reviewed in accordance with their plan, the Parks and Rec master plan. And I can get you the specific section that says that this is an approved project. That's why they were ranked the top 12. I think they had about 30 different projects or maybe more. That we're looking at.
What I'm worried about is if we pass this project to change the use of Hilltop Center and we devote money to do that, it's going to go to Parks and Rec, and Parks and Rec is going to say it's not in our master plan. And we just wasted our time and our money.
I'll get the references. This is the Hilltop Center Facility Use Study, NM06, that we're talking about. And it would just be what the request is to do the study to look at the use of the facility to see if it could be used differently.
No, I'm speaking of the one about changing it to an art building.
And yes, NM06, the use study, right?
That's proposed by an individual, not Parks and Recreation, correct?
Let me check. And Jamie has her hand up too while I'm looking.
While you're checking, I'm jumping out of my chair. I would invite the NCIP committee to consider, in its long history, it has always been the voice of the neighborhoods and what they desire. And sometimes the neighborhoods and what they desire are the lead for ideas and for change. And sometimes the things that are suggested are not what the neighborhoods want. So it's up to us to put forward what we believe is the best for us. And the city council can always not approve it.
And just Dave also has, and Dennis has his hand up for half an hour. But the project was nominated by one of the commissioners on the Parks and Rec Commission. Yes.
Is it my turn? So looking at our schedule that was revised, when would we see the $ increments of what these projects are worth?
Next week.
Oh, okay. So when
Yep.
it won't be.
So before the public comments are being solicited, which begins next Thursday night, we'll have that. Mhm.
Any other comments on the new Monterey projects? Okay, we'll go to Old Town.
Okay, we skip over Oak Grove has no projects this year. And Old Town has 5 projects. One is new, for returning. Project number 1 is for the Larkin Park turf renovation and irrigation improvements, originally approved in 2016. Project number 2 is at the Monterey Police Department in front there is for the Honor Garden that was approved in 2017, defunded. Project number 3 is for Old Town neighborhood signs, which was originally approved in 2018. Project number 4 is for a desktop survey to look for an accessible park in the Old Town neighborhood, originally approved in 2018. And then project number 5 is a new project this year. It's for along Cedar Street. There's a pedestrian path between the upper and lower sections of Cedar Street that needs renovation.
Thank you. We'll take it out to online public comments for the Old Town neighborhood projects. Are there any?
No public comment.
Okay, anyone in chambers for public comments on Old Town projects? Okay, to the committee. Jamie.
I thought that the MPUSD had fixed the irrigation at Larkin Park. Do we know that this is still valid?
My understanding is that that is their field and irrigation system, and it's owned and operated by MPUSD.
I can give you some background on all 5 of those. The people who proposed the original OT01 have passed. I can't go to them and ask them to take it, take it back. Our neighborhood doesn't support paying for water for land that belongs to the school district. So that one really doesn't have our support at all. And the Monterey Police Department Honor Garden, I got in contact with, it was Carrie Ann, was the lady who proposed it. We had a long conversation. She said, thank you, I'll be there. And she's not here. So we know nothing about it really because it was foisted on us as part of the citywide projects that got moved around to neighborhoods. So right now at this point, that doesn't have our support either. The neighborhood signs are something, it doesn't have to be large and intrusive, but a lot of the other neighborhoods have something that I don't think people know we're a neighborhood up the hill. So maybe something small, tasteful at whatever strategic points just to say, hey, there's a neighborhood up here. Accessible, I'm not sure about that one. I haven't spoken with the person who proposed that one. The Cedar Street pathway, I tried to get a hold of the person who proposed it. No address, phone number had no message machine. So finally I emailed her and she did respond back and say that she had lived here, but she had moved to another area right now. But I walked that one myself the other day and that's really heavily used and people don't want to go from Roosevelt or Harrison down the hill and then back up the hill. So they cut through Cedar Street and it's a really pretty area, but I don't know. I'm assuming that that's city property.
Yes.
That we can go through there and it needs to be cleaned up. It's really sort of overgrown and there are a couple of stairs, but not a lot. So that one would have our support too.
Thanks, April. Lee.
There is conversation, and I know it's been going on for years. The magic has not happened yet, but there's conversation of a redo of the fire and police department building over here. So I think we really need to nail that down because going forward, and I think the Memorial Garden is wonderful, but why do it if things are going to be all torn up and stuff like that? I think we need to do some more investigating, and the chief could probably pin it down. He may say, God, I didn't hear that one. Or he may say, it's on the books for 10 years from now. Who knows? But I think we need to proceed with that before we go forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Tom?
This is not an Old Town project.
No.
This is a multi-neighborhood project. It shouldn't be under Old Town. It's not an Old Town project. Here we are again facing this. What do we need to do to convince the powers to be to put it as a multi-neighborhood project where it should be, where it was before?
Tom, I'm
It's
putting,
nuts.
I'm putting a little CW in my description.
Well, it's not Old Town.
No.
So you shouldn't even have to address it.
Mhm.
And we had extensive presentations on this before you guys were here.
Mhm.
I mean, we had
Yeah.
at least an hour that I recall, and multiple people here. And it was a multiple neighborhood. We call it multiple neighborhood if you want, but it's not an Old Town project. Why is it in Old Town? It doesn't
It's-
make any sense.
Physically located within the boundary of the Old
Yeah,
Town
but it
neighborhood.
doesn't make any sense.
Okay,
You gotta get
it's just
through
physically
to somebody
located.
in the head shed. that it's
That's
not
the
an Old
reason
Town
why.
project.
Yeah.
If we need to come there and support you, we will, but they don't get it.
Yeah.
Please help.
Any other comments about Old Town projects? All right, we'll do the,
Gene, I have my hand up.
oh, I'm sorry, Richard.
Yeah, but you forgot the public, you forgot the council chambers, you forgot the phone calls. You have to do those before we comment.
We did.
I think we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, I do have a comment about OT5, the pathway renovation. Sidewalks and pathways are covered by Measure S.
It's not a sidewalk.
Well, a pathway sidewalk, it's on public property. Streets, drainage, and sidewalks are covered by Measure S tax funds. So if we can get it done that way, we don't have to pay for it.
I'll check that before the next.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, we're going to introduce the two Ryan Ranch projects and then go out to public comment.
Thank you. There are two projects this year nominated in the Ryan Ranch neighborhood. The first was originally proposed and approved in 2019. It's for the Ryan Ranch Road, the RV storage lot up there. It's to install security cameras on the lot. And just we wanted to note again that the city does not have a policy for installing surveillance cameras in public spaces currently. The second project at Ryan Ranch, we had a call about earlier this evening. It's the 8-court pickleball facility. This is on currently, well, there's an area up there. It's not being used. It's a gravel area. It's for the pickleball facility. This is the Parks and Rec Commission's 12th highest priority project of the projects that they looked at out there. And as we heard earlier this evening, the group is willing to partially fund or assist with funding for the design. It sounded like they were going to.
Thank you. Are there any online public comments about the two Ryan Ranch projects?
Yes, we have one hand up, John Sovereign. Go ahead.
You guys are doing great. I totally understand the frustration about neighborhoods and community-wide. I just have to, add to your, pain a little bit here. As I understand it, there are no residents in Ryan Ranch, and there is no representative on this committee for Ryan Ranch. So why is there a neighborhood designation for Ryan Ranch? I don't get it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. I was thinking of that today, and maybe we need to wrap Ryan Ranch into a tangential neighborhood, and because there's such good points that John just made. Any other online comments? Online?
No, no hands are raised.
Fatima, no more online?
No.
Thank you. In chambers.
Sorry, I'll just briefly second the previous speaker's question because I was going to ask the same thing. Where did Ryan Ranch become a neighborhood? And how is it that could even be represented if there's no residents there?
Right.
Again, this is the neighborhood improvement program, neighborhood community improvement program. And it should be resident serving projects. Thank you.
And as I recall, this is a fallout from the districting. When we went to districts for the city council all parts of the city had to be incorporated into neighborhoods. And so it was a result of that, but we have a problem that we have to change it. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, again, this is an example, it doesn't make any common sense. And somebody's got to get through, somebody's got to beat up or go up and harass the city manager or the mayor or whoever and get this straightened out. This is just ridiculous. It's a common area project. It's not a neighborhood. Ryan Ranch is not a neighborhood. The other thing that occurs on this pickleball thing is there's big things going on with disc golf out there. And my question is, how does this particular project conflict with that? So that we would need to know at some point if that project is pursuing, and there's money put up on that, as I recall from the city council decision on that when they accepted the money. So that if we could just make sure that this project doesn't conflict, if it's going to be at Ryan Ranch, with the disc golf thing.
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah.
Louis, can you help us at all?
It won't conflict, it's on the Stockton and Fort Worth. The only conflict might be with both.
Yeah. Louis,
Would you please repeat that? We can't hear.
mean that because I know John's very interested in this and he's online.
Okay, so there would be no conflict with the disc golf because it's off to the right in what would be a staging area for some construction. And the only conflict might be they'd use the same parking lot.
So if you can see the screen, there's a large gravel area where that red dot is bouncing around there. It's currently fenced off, so it's not on any portion of the disc golf course. The parking area is to the right of that, to the north of it, and that's the area Louis is saying that will be shared.
And Tom, the cost on the Ryan Ranch complex will include improvements to the parking lot.
We'll talk to Mr. Lang, I believe it was, who called earlier, and see whether they want to change their project description to just design piece and then construction, or whether they want to do the entire thing in one.
So the city would not require improvements to the parking lot before they would develop the complex. I mean, can we put in an 8-court pickleball court without having a proper parking lot, and the current bathrooms, are they going to be sufficient for both disc ball and an 8-court pickleball complex?
We'll have to figure all that out
Okay.
when we start looking at the project. Yes.
So how do we get to an approximate price in a week when we aren't sure if we're talking about 8 courts of pickleball or a big parking lot and 8 courts of pickleball and the requirement for a bathroom that is connected to the sewer? Now, as I understand, there was with the disc golf, there was going to be a connection up to the sewer, and that did that get modified, Louis? What was it?
Not proposed.
They may have asked for that, but I don't think it ever got that far down the line. So right now there's just portables there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and what I'm really asking is, how does the public, how do the 16 of us evaluate what the pickleball complex is going to mean? I mean, it's going to be one cost for 8 courts, but if the requirement's going to be that they have a decent parking lot, and then that they have a decent bathroom facility, because this is going to be a big deal, 8 courts of pickleball, and we're going to want to do it. I would like to do it right if we're going to do it. So,
So I might be wrong, but there may be an estimate from before when this project from about 3 years ago.
yeah,
We'll give you a ballpark figure. The parking lot wasn't part of that, and the restroom wasn't part of that.
okay.
And I think it's going to be exorbitant if you try to put those things all in at the same
Okay.
time.
And I'm not saying we have to. I just want to know that what we vote on, if what we vote on is an 8-court pickleball court and it passes, and then all of a sudden, well, we can't do it because now we have to have toilets hooked up to the sewer and we have to have a parking lot and we have to have ADA and, and all of a sudden it's a much bigger project. I think we should know now, but
I don't
I
think that
think-
was part of the, I don't think that was part of the disc golf thing. I think they had to have a restroom. I didn't hear anything about them having to be hooked up to the sewer. And right now they do have an ADA parking space there, which would be very easy to get to the pickleball court.
okay, so,
Close by.
so I'm kind of hearing we could go as is and put in an 8-court pickleball court.
I would think so.
Okay, all right.
But I also heard the submitter say earlier tonight that he was probably going to phase it and do design first.
Yes, which would answer a lot of these questions.
Yeah.
So we'll get clarity on that before we vote. And it's not next week. It'll be in 3 weeks from tonight.
April.
I think we're going to keep coming back to this whole issue of citywide versus neighborhood.
I know.
If we, no matter what we do, I don't know how in the heck we can justify putting Ryan Ranch as a neighborhood. Doesn't have a rep. We get back to how many, if we went back and counted all the projects that really are citywide, rather than in each individual neighborhood, we could wipe out a whole lot of them and never approve them because citywide's not an issue. I mean, if you start putting, and we've had projects proposed for Coton Hall, you start putting them in our neighborhood, who in the heck is going to vote for $250,000, $300,000 out of the pocket for something that's not in a neighborhood? This, as Jamie said, this whole program was created, and Richard has said it too, as the fact of representing the neighborhoods, giving the neighborhoods a little bite into something that we previously had no access to. So it's going to be real ugly.
From the outsider here looking in, you still have all the power. You have the vote.
Oh, good.
So, I mean, that's the way I see it. I've been coming here for what, 10, 11 years, 12 years. You still have all the power. Huh?
I know. What happened to the 30?
Yeah, you still have all the power. So the power lies with you.
Yeah.
No matter where the
Don't vote for
neighborhood is, the power lies with you. So.
Tom.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that this project, this RR02, that it be a phase type of thing, because it's not going to be all done at the same time. So I think you need to break it down somehow, maybe the design part of it and from the construction part of it, because it's going to be a big project.
Yeah, we'll talk to the submitter about that.
Yeah.
Who sounded willing.
Just a suggestion.
Great. Dennis.
It could be that if we build a pickleball court up there, that they'll get out of our neighborhoods and the pickleballers will be enjoying themselves up there, and there is thereby neighborhood benefits. Okay, that's not great comically relief, but here's another one. I work in Ryan Ranch. Should I be the representative for Ryan Ranch?
We have a volunteer. When we toured up at Ryan Ranch, Louis and the Parks and Recs Committee and a few of us from NCIP, I did have the opportunity to talk to some of the executive members of the disc golf board. And I said, how do you guys feel about pickleball potentially coming? And they said they were fine with it. I said, I would just like to know that there's not going to, how you feel. We had a problem in our neighborhood with a smaller version of this. And I don't want to get down the road and find out that you're all bent out of shape. And they said, no, it's public and we appreciate having been welcomed, and we would welcome the next group as well. So I think maybe we ought to review, if we get this project, we ought to review that with the executive board of the disc golf and make sure they're happy, and maybe some of the businesses right next door, but I guess we'll get to that if it's staged. Lee.
This is just like when the sports center came to us and they wanted all this money and like for us to redo the whole building. And we went back to them and said, you need to break down your priorities to get this through, because you're not going to get it through the whole ball of wax. Same thing with this, with the pickleball. Come back to us, which is the priorities. Let's get commitments and put it into phases. We don't need another study, but let's put it into phases where the priorities are to go forward with it.
Dennis?
I used to ride my mountain bike in that property and there's plenty of room for both to exist. The gravel area is over by the old McGraw Hill building and there's plenty of parking there, et cetera. Some of the disc golf people use it. It's down the walk path from where I work. So several of our people walk up there every day.
Thank you. Dave?
So I want to come back to the consternation we have over like the Honor Garden in Old Town and this issue with things potentially we would want to vote for a project that's in Ryan Ranch, isn't it? And we got rid of citywide, but now we're calling them MNs, right? So could we not move something, even though it's in Old Town, it's not necessarily seen as an Old Town project because it affects, it's all of us wanting to recognize our first responders through something like an Honor Garden. Would it not make sense in some of those cases to say, let's just make this an MN project and similar to Ryan Ranch? We don't have a neighborhood of Ryan Ranch, but it could be a multi-neighborhood. Is that a way we can solve that issue?
From what I understand, no, because it's all about where the project is physically located. So the projects that are multi-neighborhood are actually located in one or more neighborhoods. And that's what makes it multi-neighborhood. There was, it had something to do with the civil grand jury case back in 2019. And it was a result of that. And this is the direction that the city attorney's office has given us to go forward with. So that's where we're going.
I'll go out to Shinnery and then back to you, Dennis.
So I had this question kind of back when we were talking about the Ryan Ranch and the pickleball facility. Does this have anything to do with the I guess the agreement or solution that came about the I guess controversy about restriping the tennis courts? Is this another option that came from that arbitration, or is this completely different?
No, it's two different discussions.
Okay.
The pickleball complex in Ryan Ranch would be a facility, an 8-court facility up there where there's no residences.
Okay, thank you.
Dennis?
So we had a discussion with the CERD people, because I'm involved with that for 25 years. Everything over there that's the police station, all the way to the far end of the parking lot, is expected to be torn out sometime in the next 2 years. So where you're going to plot anything on that piece of property is really suspect to being trashed in that move. That came up because we were going to move the Old Town box someplace because it needs to move out of here where they're going to build the low income housing. And we said, let's put a container over there. And we got back from battalion chief, this is all getting torn up into a new fire department, police department complex. So I don't know that we can look at a statue that's going to become melted bronze.
Thank you. Anyone else on the committee for commenting on the Ryan Ranch projects? Okay, we'll move on to Skyline.
Thank you. For the big sheet. Okay. Skyline has 7 nominated projects this year. We'll flip through them quickly. Project number 2 is the Veteran Use Area Erosion Control. This was originally approved in 2009, and it will take some permitting because they're in water courses. This is, well, it's actually, you can see where the star is there. It's kind of to the south of Veterans Drive. Project number 3 is the Greenbelt Path renovation between Pine Hill Way and Mar Vista. And this is a project that looks to be Measure P&S eligible. Project number 5 is the Veterans Park Bike Path segment, originally approved in 2019. And there was a comment from the traffic, and the staff, which was, oh, it just says the project's ready to go before the NCIP committee. Not much of a comment. Project number 6 is the Veterans Park. Also, it's the basketball court expansion project approved in 2019. This is one of the defunded ones. Project number 8 at Veterans Park is the bocce ball court surface, approved in 2019. Project number 9 was a new project nominated this year at Mar Vista, Drive, I guess it is, right? For the fence repair at Skyline up at the top of the hill. A couple trees, I believe, fell through this fence earlier during the storms back in January. It's been repaired, but the project was nominated by a resident up there. Project number 10 is the parking turnout at 1501 Skyline Drive. This one had a staff comment that I will read. This one says, so the traffic group got together. Again, this was the police, fire, planning, parking, traffic, and parks who met and discussed all the traffic related projects. The comment that they provided to us for tonight is staff has concerns about the feasibility and necessity of the proposed turnout. The proposed turnout does not address concerns with the structural integrity of the adjacent retaining wall located on private property, which is likely to be deficient for this proposed use. Staff also expressed concerns about the use of the turnout by non-emergency vehicles and enforcement of no parking at the turnout. Property has a fire lane and turn around that when not blocked by parked vehicles is sufficient for emergency response.
Okay, we'll go out to the public online for comments about the Skyline projects. Fatima, anybody online?
Yes, we have one hand raised, John Sovereign. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help but follow up on the wonderful conversation that we had about neighborhoods and Ryan Ranch. You guys have been doing this a lot longer than I have, but my suggestion would be, accept the fact that, every project needs to be identified about where it actually exists, where it's going to be, done. And to the extent that, neighborhoods like Ryan Ranch are not represented, well, that could be a fact of life, right? I mean, as I understand it, if there's no, residents, there's no neighborhood association, so there's, no representation on the committee. I agree with you wholeheartedly, that, you should make it clear to the city attorney and the powers that be that you guys aren't interested in funding community-wide projects. I mean, I think you are to, some degree. But, it seems like it's really not that big a deal, but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Anybody else online for Skyline?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, anybody in the chambers for Skyline projects?
I'll just quickly talk about the Veterans Park since I know John up there pretty well and we talk regularly. The bike path is really one of 4 phases. It's to get the most difficult phase to get it down to get bikes off the steep curving road up to the park that often has big RVs going up there, and to separate the bikes from all the bikers that camp up there. And this is by far the most expensive section, but it's the one to get it up, to get the bikes up to the park. it'll later be in other sections continued on to connect to the bike path on Skyline Drive. The basketball court was we did a small version of the basketball court. Well, we didn't, but it was done a while ago. A big tree that has now died can now allows us to expand it to a full half court. And there are a fair number of both locals and guests, high school students, as well as guests that do play up there. So that is really appreciated, would be appreciated. People who play bocce ball, this is a very inexpensive project, as they would want, I guess they don't quite like the DG covering. They would like some other kind of material on top, but I think that was a pretty inexpensive project to do. So that's all the three projects I'll talk about. Thanks. I don't know about the erosion control at all. It's a really old project.
Thanks, Hans. Anybody else in chambers on the Skyline projects? Okay, we'll turn it to the committee for comments and questions. Dennis?
So I see in the book that the erosion control project, they couldn't find the original nomination form for. I think that was because it was rolled into the Windermere project that got tossed by the city and not considered. So that could be where that went to. The path on Pine Hill Way to Mar Vista, that's a project I submitted, and if it could be funded with taxpayer money, fine, let's do it. It's a terrible trip hazard. The curb is literally 4 inches higher than the walkway. So it's a great way to find your way to the street, probably face down.
Is that privately owned?
No, it's in the city's greenbelt. And Skyline Forest was developed with city green belts, and all of the forest up there that's not on individuals' property is city trees. And they all have dog tags from the city. Every tree's got a number on it. They've lost what those numbers mean, but they were numbered at one point. Yes.
Any questions? I have one quick one. On the Veterans Park bike path, it says segment 4. Does that mean we've done 1 through 3? I forget. We haven't done any of them. Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just that's a descriptor of the park. Got it.
Yeah, it's at the top where you're making the sharpest turn.
Yes.
say 14 to 16%.
We've
rise.
toured that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does look like it would be a problem with RVs and a
And
lot
I
of traffic.
used to ride that way home all the time.
Yeah.
On my bike, and it's like, you gotta be pretty strong to get up that one.
Oh, yes.
And if
It's
you-
steep.
If you could cut through there, through the stairs, to me, I would take that corner and make it more smooth and straight rather than one of
Right.
these. Because I think it would benefit traffic and the bikes.
Great.
Uh,
Jamie and then Tom.
Just to clarify, this is going to be connected so it can be used as soon as it's built. This phase 4, we're not making a path to nowhere.
Cycling, you can use the roadway, which is share the road signs all over, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing that. But there's also a walk path that you can ride on if you're kind of by yourself, which is probably safer if you're by yourself on a walk path.
Tom?
Yeah, after answer to the guy that called in and said, we're not really concerned about community-wide projects or major projects, and we are concerned about them. We've had many, many community-wide projects that were supported by multiple neighborhoods. And so, yeah, that's not a fair conclusion, and to leave that as an open statement. He's just not familiar with the 35 years that we've been doing this.
Dave. Oh, Richard.
Yes, the way I see it, we waste a lot of time talking about community-wide, multi-neighborhood. Semantics don't mean anything. The Monterey County Grand Jury and the city attorney have made a final decision. Let's just vote on the projects by their merit and do what's best for the city. I don't want to waste any more time. It doesn't have to be common sense. This is the grand jury. This is an attorney. They don't have to make sense, but they can make final decisions, and we have to follow those. So can we just concentrate on the projects from now on? Thank you.
Any other comments about Skyline on the committee? Okay, we'll go to Villa Del Monte. Tom?
Thank you. There are 7 projects nominated this year in Villa. Is it Villa or Villa? Or does it matter? Villa. Thank you. Project number 1 is the radar speed signs. This was originally approved in 2007. Would be to install radar speed signs in the neighborhood. Project number 2 is also a traffic calming project. Phase 1 is at the Palo Verde, Encina, and Garden Road intersection there. Project number 3 is also a traffic calming project from 2007, would be to do a curb extension, which I believe is in the, I'm going to try and get fancy, in the painted area along Casa Verde Way at the corner of Encina. Project number 5 is a new project from this year in the decomposed granite area behind the ball field and adjacent to the playground. They're asking for a couple of benches, I believe. Project number 6 is asking for solar street lights on Del Robles Avenue. This would be on the side opposite. On this photo, we're looking east. Highway 1 is off to the right. The right of way is there behind the fence. Would be to install. They asked for 4 solar street lights. Traffic had a comment on this project, which says the staff recommends the NTIP representative work with the applicant to better understand the goal of the project. Staff has concerns with the quantity and location of poles, as well as ADA compliance with additional poles. A solar report may be required to determine if sufficient sun exposure is available to power lighting year-round. Project number 7 was for the installation of a neighborhood monument sign in Casa Verde, Helic Portola. That's the bioretention area. And I tried to slip it in there. Oh, this one also had a comment from traffic that said staff has concerns locating any object in the bioretention area. This may result in compliance issues for stormwater regulation. The tower may also obstruct sight distance at the intersection. And then project number 8 was for a traffic study along Palo Verde Avenue. This one also had a traffic comment, which was that staff advises that any proposed changes will likely require an amendment to the traffic calming plan and meet requirements laid out in the traffic calming program. Those are the projects in Villa Del Monte.
Thank you, Tom. We'll go out to the public online for public comments about Villa Del Monte.
No hands are raised.
Thank you, Fatima. Any in the chambers?
Oh, wait, we do have one hand raised.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Go ahead, Robert Yoha. Robert, can you unmute yourself, please?
There, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I apologize. Robert Yohe, I live in Kona, and I cycled down Casa Verde Way. I think that's a very important project at that corner. That's a very dangerous intersection, and I support it from a cycling viewpoint. It's really, it's a neighborhood safety issue. We don't want to lose people there. I've almost been run over. So I support whatever you can do for that intersection to make it safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others online?
No others online.
Thank you. Anyone in chambers on Villa Del Monte? Okay. Anyone on the committee? We'll start with Richard.
Yes. First off, on the traffic calming plans, I believe it was said that those traffic studies were done in 2007. Homeowners may have changed since then. I would like to make sure that these improvements that are being made in front of people's houses have got their sign off on the design. That was usually a requirement for us when we did our traffic calming, but things have changed quite a bit in 15, 16 years on ownership. So I asked the rep to recheck the neighbor approval, because according to the traffic study, they have veto rights if they're going to lose parking or things like that. But I want to discuss the solar street lights. I have quite a bit of solar lights, and they work well with motion sensing lights. But with a street light that is on at dusk till dawn, you're going to need a battery the size of a car. That's really not going to work, even with LED. And I didn't see any comments about the feasibility of electricity versus solar, in addition to the other problems that this project was brought up. But solar doesn't work all night long, not without a huge battery. Those are my two comments. Thank you.
Jamie?
With regard to things, with regard to VDM3, the phase 2 that we were just looking at, all of those bulb outs we're seeing in the picture and all of the nice striping was put in subsequent to 2007. So I think we really need to take a hard look at this.
So my understanding of this is that the neighbor who lives in front of that bulb out did not want the bulb out there, which is why it wasn't constructed at the time.
Okay. So there may be design elements that were not fully implemented.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, we did the other three corners, but this one was left.
Cool. And then the second question I had was on VDM 5. I heard at one point in time there was plans to redesign that side of the ballpark. So is that true or not? Or maybe you just move the picnic table when you finally get around to it?
Well, there were plans to get rid of or to close a portion of Del Robles and make it one way to expand the playground part, but it did not include that little section where they're requesting the benches. So this is kind of their fallback position, because the indication that they got, the submitter got the likelihood of getting the city council to approve all those changes as far as one-waying the streets was going to be a uphill slide, which in other words wouldn't get very far. So this is their kind of fallback position, is to, because the little park gets used a lot, but you know, there's people there and there's that little, basically a blank spot that's just DG, and they were going to go for that. The other thing about solar, well, it depends on what you get. I mean, the initial picture that I submitted is one of those great $200 things out of Amazon, which wouldn't go at all. But there are commercial versions that will run it all night. The battery pack is probably about the size of, say, 2 or 3. It's in a little cabinet at the base, or maybe you can mount it on the pole. That would be about the size of a couple of car batteries. And those are supposed to run all night. So it really depends on what you go after. And the important thing is as our traffic engineer said, the applicant did not get the response from the neighbors because I wasn't aware, and she wasn't aware that you've got to go out at least 250 feet from, I guess, each light, and get the neighbor. So that's going to be done over the next week or so. So we'll get response on that. And as far as response on the traffic circle, the same thing, as far as input from the current residents. So.
Kurt?
Yeah, just on VDM 5, was there any input from the Park and Rec Department on this?
I don't know.
It was not one of their top 12 projects.
Okay.
Okay, but they did discuss it. Or aware of it, I guess, is what I'm
Yes,
asking.
they're aware of it.
Okay.
Other committee member comments? Dwayne, anything else? Okay. All right, multi-neighborhood.
Oh, boy.
We'll have Tom introduce the projects and then we'll go to the public.
Thank you. 18 projects were nominated that fall within one or more neighborhoods. We'll go through them right now again quickly. Project multi-neighborhood project number 1 is the Mark Thomas Drive separated bike trail and pedestrian path design. This was intended to connect the existing bike trail in North Fremont to come up, get up, I think it's Airport Road there that goes up to Fairground Road that turns into Mark Thomas that goes to Sloat. And then we go back down to Del Monte and across the street over to the rec trail. That would be in the Aguajito Oaks, Kona, Deer Flats, actually, and Oak Grove neighborhoods. There was a traffic comment on this project that stated this project is ready to go before the NCIP committee. It is included in the city's multimodal plan. So it's something that they have looked at in the past. Project number 2 is for community-wide historic Monterey master plan for art, originally approved in 2015 for, I was assuming there was no neighborhood that was proposed at the time, but I figured this would be in the downtown, New Monterey and Old Town neighborhoods for the historic structures. Project number 3 is for community-wide public art security plan. This is for phase 1, originally approved in 2016 in the downtown, New Monterey and Old Town neighborhoods. Project number 4 is for the Monterey Bay Park Dune restoration, the fence sign repair project. This is to repair damage from the storms this winter, and it's in the downtown and I believe Oak Grove neighborhoods, new project. Project number 5 is along Highway 68 to restore the scenic highway signage that's out there. This is a new project this year in the Kona, Deer Flats, and Fisherman Flats neighborhoods. Oh, and this had comments that were staff recommends that the request be passed to Caltrans. Scenic highway signs and scenic highways are under the jurisdiction of Caltrans. Location, placement, and type of signs is at the discretion of Caltrans.
There was one sign that got knocked down that needs to be replaced. And the city has not done.
Right.
The last night we needed signs by Caltrans and IP update. So, you know, you can say it's Caltrans' responsibility if they won't do it. They take it back to the city.
Project number 6, thank you, is the community-wide forest management program. This is a new project this year in most of the neighborhoods in the city: Alta Mesa, Kona, Deer Flats, Fisherman Flats, Glenwood, Monterey Vista, New Monterey, Old Town, and Skyline. Project number 7 is at the Veterans Park, Quarry Park. There's a walking path that connects the two parks, and it would be to improve that project. You can see the photo in the middle on the bottom. It's quite muddy when it rains, which is probably most of the winter this year. Project number 8 is for community-wide rec trail restroom signage. This would be along the rec trail on Del Monte Beach, downtown, New Monterey, and Oak Grove. Project number 9 is for the permeable pavers along the edge of the rec trail in the downtown and New Monterey areas, neighborhoods. This would be on the photo in the upper right. You can almost sort of see that the one edge of the trail is decomposed granite. And it historically becomes uneven pretty easily with the rain. It settles a lot. This is one of the 2 projects discussing that location. Multi-neighborhood project number 10 is for the recreation trail bike repair stations. There were 2 of these there was a grant program from TMC, right? Several years ago that was going to fund these. We just need a location for them. This was from 2019, so I'll have to like dust it off, but that was, oh, and there is another comment. Which says this project is ready to go before the committee with the NCIP committee. Staff did express concerns on continued maintenance for replacement tools for the repair station and careful consideration of the location of these repair stations. Project number 11 is for a recreation trail water bottle refill stations, the dog bowl on the bottom. This would be along locations along the rec trail. Also, this was a project approved in 2019 and again defunded. Project number 12 is the recreation trail use study. This one is a new project this year. You've seen it before. It's been before us, but it was not approved in the past. It was not ever a project, so it wasn't defunded. Occurs in Del Monte Beach, downtown New Monterey, and Oak Grove neighborhoods. There was a traffic comment which reads, staff recommends that this project go before the next one so that the scope be amended to include a study and extensive public outreach to determine if separation is feasible for any sections of the trail and community preference on the separation of the trail. Scope should include presentation of findings to the Parks and Rec Commission. Staff also recommends that the study consider the implication of e-bikes with the discussion with attention to recent bills on the subject in the state legislature. This was also Parks and Rec Commission's priority project number 1. So this was the most important project on their list of all the projects this year. Project number 13, also for the rec trail. This is to restripe the rec trail for pedestrians and wheeled vehicles for downtown in New Monterey, the heavily used section of the trail there. Traffic also had a comment on this project, which reads, staff recommends that the previous project for the study proceed as a project before the NCIP committee ahead of this project. Committee also recommends that the scope include all the rec trail in the city. So rather than just look at the locations, the neighborhoods here, they're look at the entire length of the trail. There are concerns that should be community input, support on the separation of bikes, peds within the trail. Also, prior to considering the separation of the trail, the study and determination should go before the Parks and Rec Commission. The outcome of the previous project will affect this project. Project number 14, also at the rec trail. This is the second one that's talking about the decomposed granite areas adjacent to the rec trail around this lighthouse curve of the top there, the downtown and New Monterey neighborhoods. This would be to just simply replace the low areas with new decomposed granite to level it out. Project number 15 was community-wide public art and mural installations, which is in the downtown New Monterey, Oak Grove, and Old Town neighborhoods. Project number 16 is in the Windermere. It's the lower canyon for a drainage design solution down there. It's originally proposed in 2008. It's in the Monterey Vista and Skyline neighborhoods. Project number 17 is for renovation of the bike path between Holman Highway and Viejo Road along Highway 1 in the Glenwood and Skyline neighborhoods, originally approved in 2019. Project number 18 is at John Street, which is also the end of Ramona. It's for highway screening. This project was approved in 2019 and then defunded. It's in Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande, and also Villa Del Monte. And those are the multi-neighborhood projects this year.
Thank you, Tom. We'll go out to the public online for comments on multi-neighborhood projects.
We have 2 hands raised. We'll start with the number ending in 500.
Hello, this is Wendy Brickman again, representing North Fremont Business District. And I just know how it breaks my heart to see people not riding on the bike trail. And I know it's very, very expensive to extend it through Seaside or to Canyon Del Rey, but the idea of having a bike trail on Mark Thomas, connecting it to downtown, is really, really appealing to me. And I just wanted you, the committee, to seriously consider this idea. And it would be much safer for the bicyclists and much safer for the car drivers. And and then it can connect through Naval Postgraduate School around there and get over to the rec trail. So I just wanted the committee to really consider this innovative project. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Anyone else online?
Yes, we have Robert Yogi.
Hello, Robert Yowie here again. Back in the early 70s, when I went to MPC, I could safely walk and bicycle on Mark Thomas Drive. But now, many years later, I'm 73 years old and I'm hoping to make it to 85. I don't bicycle on Mark Thomas Drive, even though there's a striped bike path there. It's just too gosh darn dangerous. But if I want to go downtown, I've got to go all the way across down to the bicycle rec trail and take that. It's just way out of the way. There are too many conflict points for me to get from my neighborhood down to the rec trail on a consistent basis. And if we build that Mark Thomas section, now our island to nowhere, our North Fremont Street Class 1 bicycle lane will be connected to downtown. And if you work downtown and you live in Seaside, if we do Mark Thomas Drive, you could go Mark Thomas Drive through North Fremont Street. And we now have the city of Monterey, they approved the grant to cross Canyon Del Rey. So the Mark Thomas Drive is really important to our whole neighborhood and also the people that commute and work downtown. Please, it's a very important segment for people that bicycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else, Fatima?
Yes, we have 2 more hands raised. Go ahead, Monterey property owner / parent.
Yes, hi. I actually ride my bicycle with my young child on that road, and it's definitely in need of some kind of improvement. In the Silicon Valley, there's a lot more bicycles, paths. It's a lot more bicycle friendly. If you just move to the area and you have a young child, you're going to be abruptly awakened by cars that fly by. It's a little dicey when you get to the bridge over there, coming by the golf course. The bicycle path just disappears. It's not there. And then when you get to the other side, let's say you did take the sidewalk, you got to jump the curb. It just seems like it's very needs some updating for the safety of the community's sake.
Thank you.
We have Scott Dent.
Yeah, thank you. I live in the Casanova Oak Knoll neighborhood, and I have 3 young kids. One is 4, one is 2, and one is 10 months. And we like to do biking. I like to bike with the kids. But currently, our neighborhood just doesn't have a safe way to get from our neighborhood to the rec trail. I don't feel safe going down Casa Verde with my kids, or I really don't feel safe going down Mark Thomas Drive with my kids. So right now, because of that safety issue, we actually have to pack our car with all of our stuff, all of our biking equipment, and drive close to the rec trail and unpack everything to be able to use the rec trail, which is pretty inconvenient for us. I do sometimes use that Mark Thomas Drive when I'm riding my bike alone, when I don't have my kids with me to go surfing. And I actually have an attachment on my bike so I can put an 8-foot surfboard and ride it. And it's just, there's not a lot of space on that Mark Thomas Drive. Cars get pretty close. It's pretty dangerous. So I think that separation and a barrier would be a phenomenal upgrade for us. And I am another person that actually uses the Fremont Bike Trail. When I do go surfing, I sometimes come back, or on the way there, I will use that Fremont Bike Trail. I think also another benefit that I didn't hear some of the other people say was we do have a lot of events at the fairgrounds. And I think this might be a great way. I know we're thinking from Casanova Oak Knoll to downtown, but I also think it flips back where people coming up to the fairgrounds for events can also use this bike trail instead of driving and having to park in our neighborhoods. Now they're able to use this bike trail to get up to the fairgrounds to go to the numerous events, Cali Roots, the Jazz Festival. So I think that's also an added convenience for it. I also wanted to give my support for MN10, which is a repair station. But I also wanted to add that this also repair station includes a bike pump, which I think is a really great feature where you can pump up your tire if you're stranded on that bike path. And I also wanted to give my support for MN11, which is the water bottle filling stations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, Fatima?
No.
Thank you. In chambers, Tom?
Getting that up and running. I'd just like to make a general comment. You need a way to euthanize some of these really, really old projects that the proponents died, they've moved. There needs to be a way to do that. Otherwise, you're going to keep tripping over them for decades to come. I'm here to talk about MN9. And the description that was given to you, the graphic, I don't think is accurate. I was the original proposer of this project, and it's been mutated over the years that it's been out there. The idea is real simple. Get rid of the DG that's around Lighthouse Curve only, put in permeable pavers. So this also reflects through to MN13 and MN14. Because MN14 is just put DG in the puddles and try to get the water to drain. Well, that doesn't work. Go down to Pacific Grove and look for yourself. That's what Pacific Grove does. And the puddle just moves from one spot to another spot. So it really, I know the history behind this and won't bore you with it. I never wanted the DG there in the first place. We were kind of forced into it. So if you could show the photos too. So you'll see the problem is that the water just puddles there. That was shown in another exhibit of the earlier one. And then the next photo is the ironic sign, how is the water? And you could see the muddy water going down the drain. So this also has a stormwater benefit too, to keep that mud out of the storm drain. I think the graphic that Tom put up had this going all the way from like Wharf 1 all the way down to the Coast Guard Pier. Well, it's not that far. It's just from the north side of Wharf 1, because that's where the DG really starts, to the end of the guardrail, the pedestrian guardrail, that is. So I don't know how many 100 feet that is, but it's, 500 feet, something like that. But it's not the big extent that it was looking like there. So anyhow, I'd like the
description to reflect what I originally submitted, which is, I think, what this project is, although it's hard to identify because the names changed and the numbers changed. And I think this is the same project though.
Anyone else in chambers for the multi-neighborhood projects? Okay, we'll go to committee. Dennis.
So I have two comments, to Tom's comments about old projects and how can we euthanize them. If we got our projects built when we get them approved, that would help. If we got our projects not defunded and handed back to us, that would help. I think it's a function of how well and how efficiently this project runs, or this program runs, in terms of actually constructing what the citizens are counting on us to do. The other comment I have is on NM4, which I keep wanting to think is New Monterey, backwards dyslexia. If that's storm disaster stuff, don't the feds have a lot of storm fix-it funds that are supposed to help us with that? So like, is this really on us and CIP, or can this be on the federal government who's helping us with storm damage?
Thank you. Other committee comments? Jamie.
Two comments. First one, I'm looking at Historic Monterey Master Plan for Art, which I think Richard submitted, and it's 2015 and it's not done. And then I'm looking at where is it? Oh, dang, I can't find it. The one where we actually fund some art. There it is. 15. I'm kind of thinking, since the plan has been sitting on the books and funded since 2015 and wasn't done at all, maybe we should just, as a committee, consider saying, here's some money, go do art. Just throwing that out there. And then the other thing is that I would, it's an interesting thing. I ride on the rec trail a lot. I have been there and witnessed accidents and try to help people that have been hurt. And walkers are not speed bumps. So when it comes to electric bikes and the speed that's increasing, this is a real thing. And so I find myself challenged right now, and maybe we'll hear more at the next meeting with Project 12 and Project 13. And I think the submitter was really speaking strongly about 13 because he was saying, just do something. It's not going to hurt to try it. And Parks was very reticent to do that. So now they're speaking very strongly about priority number 1, Project 12, but there's still a question of timing that I want the committee to think about here.
Thank you, Richard.
Yes, I'm the sponsor of MN1, Mark Thomas Bikeway. Just to explain it briefly, North Fremont Bike Trail ends at Casa Verde. There's a half a block from Casa Verde to Fairgrounds Road. That would be a striped walkway down Fairgrounds Road, which 98% of the time do not have cars parked there, only doing events. So as you go over the Mark Thomas Bridge, there's currently 2 bike paths, one on each side of the street about 3 feet wide. And they are split in the middle. They're 3 feet wide. So you have 12 to 18 inches of concrete curb, then the asphalt interface. That gap between the two, asphalt and concrete, my 10-speed used to slip in that crack going down a steep hill in heavy traffic. So what this is, this project, there's a current dirt impassable pathway on the freeway fence side of Mark Thomas. It's about 3 feet wide. You eliminate both bike lanes in the street, and you can widen the pathway against the freeway fence 8 to 9 feet, not change the traffic flow. But here's the important point, folks. Casa Verde has dozens of conflict points, condos, apartments, intersections, freeway on and off ramps. People get hurt there all the time. I know people that have had their cars totaled there. So as you go down Mark Thomas to Sloat to the rec trail, there's only 2 conflict points: the entry to MPS and the crossing at Del Monte, which is a crosswalk traffic light intersection. So actually, there's only one true conflict point, and that's a lot better than dozens. So this project, I just got a phone call from the public. They can't log on the phone, and they were calling to support this project. But this is got to be our number one priority. So I want to discuss a couple of the other projects. At Del Monte, it's a short distance to the rec trail that needs to be paved. It can't be more than 30 or 40 yards. So as we go down, the art security plan was not my project. That other project was a camera security project, and we ended up only doing the Junipero statue at the Presidio. So that's not ours. As I'm going along here, I want to talk about MN6. A project dear to me is the forest management, the clearing of the forest of fire hazards, dangerous trees. The problem is I really want the submitter to change this. They want the majority of the NCIP budget. I think that's undoable. And I want to give a larger budget, but I want to see tree planting too. We have lost thousands of trees in Monterey, and we need to start replacing them. That's not in this, and that should be part of forest management. So I would like to see the sponsor of that project redo the wording. If they want support, I see it's going to be essential. The other comment I have is on the rec trail studies. I'm going to ask staff, how many rec trail studies have Parks and Rec done and NCIP? Because I think it's over 4. And I do not want to do a study that somebody puts on the shelf and 2 years later, some new commissioners bring it up again. At some point, they have to use the study. And I know we funded one before, and I don't believe NCIP should be designing anything that is up to our Parks and Rec Commission, and it should be part of their master plan. But please let me know when was the last rec trail study done? And I need to know that before voting night. And those are the extent of my comments. And I thank you for your time.
And let me comment on some of your comments, Richard. I was talking with Pat Venza, who submitted the forest defueling project, the forest management. And I think she'll come in with a cost in the 500 to maybe 750,000 range. And I have a question for Louis. Is this the only forest management defueling project we have? We used to have 4 or 5 smaller ones, and they seem to have not repeated.
This year, this is the only one.
Okay, all right.
And,
So-
and Jean, I would like to emphasize, can you request that she include replanting
Yes.
and removal of dangerous trees on
Yes.
city property?
Yes.
Thank you.
Kurt, I saw your hand.
Yes, I'm the submitter for NM for the dune repair and fence. The water's already gone over that dune and into the parking lot and towards the volleyball court. But now the homeless are not camping in front of the dune, they're camping on top of the dune. And so we need to put at least the cabling and the fencing back and the signage to help keep the homeless out of there, because if they keep killing that vegetation, come next year, guess what? That dune's going to be gone. And yes, there may be tidal funds and there may be federal funds. So Tom, if you could look at that, maybe there is some funding we can get. And I know the permitting and everything else to try to restore that is not great. And it's my understanding that they're not gonna be dredging this year. So they wouldn't be able to restore the dune. But we need to do something, or otherwise, come next year when we get the storms again, all that vegetation on top of that dune is gonna be gone.
Thanks, Kurt. Dave?
Yep.
I want to comment on the fuel abatement MN06. You've listed Deer Flats in there. And my understanding is that's not we own that green belt. So we fund that, the homeowners association. That's part of our annual dues. I don't think, Tom, you can check on this, but I don't think that NCIP can expend fuel abatement costs in our neighborhood's green belt.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Dennis.
So the Skyline Forest HOA made a request, and we've had some great progress with that with a community-wide fire protection program that Chief Panhauser's been working on. The intent of which is if you have a plan on how your forest ought to be managed between us and our neighbors, because we've got Caltrans and Pebble Beach and all of the adjacent places that have fuel that would probably not stop at the border, would keep burning our way if you had a fire. The intent of which is if you have a plan, you can ask for CAL FIRE grants and that kind of stuff so that we aren't the only ones funding this. That's going to take a while to get put together, and there's been about 4 years worth of work done on that so far. But in the future, we'll be able to ask for other people with bigger pockets to help us with these forest issues.
Thank you. Committee members, Jamie.
I was actually waiting to see if Skyline was going to fill us in. What is allowed underneath that multi-project number 14? A lot of what we were doing in the past, we can't do anymore. So is this a viable project? Are there techniques that we're able to implement for the Windermere Lower Canyon drainage design? Do you know?
I don't know. I know that on that project that we started, seems like 10 years ago, we had an aggregate of about $1 million that was grabbed, and it took us 4 or 5 phases to get that put together. The real problem is, as Tom can tell you, we're not supposed to silt the federal ocean. And that's exactly what we're doing up there. When Jeff Krebs and I walked that canyon, it's 30 feet deep. That'll have to be filled just to make it less of a Grand Canyon, if you will. There are houses that ultimately are going to go there. It's a mess. It's something that we ought to be looking at. I was quite disturbed, frankly, when they put the money, pulled the money for that. But they are the ones in power, so it is what it is.
Other committee member comments on the multi-neighborhood projects?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to bring this to the city council, but we'll bring it here. The conflict with bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorized, it's not a problem. There's a big sign the city put up, prohibited on the rec trail. Motorized vehicles, motorcycles, mopeds, motorized bicycles, motorized scooters, motorized skateboards. So they can't be a problem. Like you don't see anybody driving, talking or looking at one of these. It's called enforcement. That's part of the issue. Let's not forget that part of the issue while we stripe everything and put barriers up, etc. And this is another useless rule.
Thank you.
I vented. Thank you.
Any other comments on multi-neighborhood from the committee? All right, we've reviewed the projects. We can go to committee member comments. Any committee member comments? Guess we're all, go ahead.
In my previous comment about we need to make this a more efficient project or make NCIP products built when we get them approved. I think current staff is trying as much as they can, and we really like to support that. But that's That's the thing that has to happen with this program is it's got to be executed. It can't be just, we go through all of this voting stuff. We go through all of this public testimony. We go through all of this estimating and so on to get a project going, and then it sits on the shelf and it expires. By the time it's built, it needs so much more funding because of the contingency growth and something called inflation. But I did not mean my comment to sound like I was irritated with current staff. I think we have to work with council and with staff and as this committee to get these projects done. Thank you.
Jamie? All right, I can't resist poking the bear. The good news about not having citywide is that we don't have a big bunch at the end after we've gotten through the neighborhoods.
Tom?
I'll say amen to what Dennis said. It's very frustrating to deal with the staff. Haven't done this for many years. Some of it, it's just very frustrating.
Dave, Scott.
Van tours were a thing before my time. Did COVID put an end to them or will they be?
Good question, Tom.
reestablished?
We have no plans for a van tour this year. Just, it's a lot of time that we are struggling. I mean, yeah.
I will say they're very helpful. So hopefully we can all get out and drive around a bit.
Yes.
Dave, they're
Yeah,
very
yeah.
helpful.
Did we get our little permits so we can park in silly places?
Still working on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we called parking and are waiting to see them pick them up.
So my only comment would be, please each neighborhood be working on your prioritization list. And I'll just use Monterey Vista as an example. We do a survey that's gone out. And our committee, our neighbors will rank them and that's given tons of thought. I mean, it decides the issue for us and then we'll bring those priorities to you. So please get us your lists.
Gene, I have my hand raised.
Richard.
Yes, I just want to spend a couple minutes for a subject that this committee is very interested in. The oak tree study was finalized today. I read the report and I hope that every member gets a report. It's the laboratory analysis of the soil and the trees, the sick oaks, and the reason the oaks are dying. So in summary, the end result is there's no pathogens in the soil for sod, sudden oak death, nor any other pathogens that the lab can find in a broad spectrum analysis. The treatment they recommend is a nitrogen fertilizer applied in the spring. And the report explains how much you put down and watering during droughts. But there was no specific cause for our oak tree deaths, which are in my neighborhood well over 50 to 60%. So they just cite the multi-year droughts over the last triple decade, and they believe that's the cause. So that is the final result.
And can you
if-
get us
if-
that? Can you get us the report, Richard?
I'm going to ask Tom or Reggie to send the report. I do not have all your emails ready to shoot. So they do. So the report is long, it's lengthy, and it's a very good analysis. And I'm confident they did what they could. We did not expect to have an answer. And apparently we can do a little bit. It might help, but it really doesn't explain the numbers of trees that have been here for centuries. So a lot of it could be man-caused too. Paving, roads, sidewalks, patios, but it doesn't explain everything. But anyway, that it's done. So our questions are answered the best they can.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Kurt?
Yes, I just wanted to go on record that I watched the meeting last week that I missed. However, Tom, it missed it didn't start until agenda item 4, so it missed the first 3 agenda items, and one of them was Clementine's presentation on the Brown Act. Could you please have her send that to me, or maybe that she should send it out to the entire committee? And then the other issue, you hopefully by next week, possibly, that you'll have the conflicts properties listed for everybody.
We'll
And then,
work toward that. Yep.
okay, thank you. And then it's really helpful if you could send out this presentation along with the comments from the different departments. That would help, at least me, come voting night. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, several people have asked for a spreadsheet that I'd be happy to send to anyone.
Oh,
We have the comment
perfect.
for each project from the different sources, and we've listed the Parks and Rec Commission comments that we can send.
Oh, I would like that too.
We
Oh,
could
yeah,
just send it.
spreadsheets are a great way to do that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we could have it as an attachment to the next meeting.
It's
All right, so Kurt's hand went down. Dennis,
So could that list have the $sign?
yes.
all right. Committee. Online, in the chambers. Going once, going twice. We'll meet again in 1 week, April 27th. We're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. We're done.
Good.